Hello, my name's Vicki Wusche, and this brief video is going to be just an outline introduction to me so that you understand who is the person who's going to be running through the video series called 7 Secrets to Success. If I just start from 2006 and move forward from there for a minute. In 2006 I was very happy in a job, I worked in education, I was a university lecturer and I worked with the government implementing education strategy. I couldn't be happier. I had an ideal job where I got money and I got great holidays, which enabled me to spend time with my family and go scuba diving. After all, I am the property mermaid. And what happened was I was made redundant, and I sort of knew it was coming, but it was still a shock when in June 2006 I found myself without a job. I had a great database and I thought that I could become a consultant and do the same thing that I'd been doing for the government on my own. But I recognised a flaw, if you like, or a gap in my skills. I wasn't good at selling myself. I'm very good at selling other people, but I wasn't good at selling myself. And so for the final 6 months of 2006, I was doing exactly the same things that I'd been doing for the previous 6 years, but not actually invoicing anybody because I didn't have the courage to ask for the money. I then got one of those random emails that you do inviting me along to an event. I didn't know what it was, but it sounded like a good idea. Off I went, especially as it was free and quite local. And it turned out to be a 3-day personal development come introduction to NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. I'd been in education for more than 10 years at that point, and I really had never heard of NLP, Tony Robbins, people like Robert Kiyosaki. I had no awareness of that world. I actually think that's quite shocking that people in education aren't aware of what probably you and I are aware of now as the norm. So I did this training and I found that over that period in 2007 I recognised values that I had that were helping me have the life that I had at the time, but actually hindering me from having the life that I wanted. And our values are something that are very important to us. They shape what we see, what we do, what we recognise, what we spend our time on. The other big lesson that I had during 2007 was around recognising that I can take total responsibility for my life, and that's really empowering. I was having a conversation with my daughter about internal and external validation. What's important in your life? The things that matter to you, or whether you do and have things that matter to other people. I started to recognise that I'd been looking for external validation. I call that approval. I wanted approval. I've always wanted my father's approval, my teacher's approval. And that wanting approval of others meant that I was looking for different things in my life that were at conflict, really, to what I said I wanted for myself. So, in taking total responsibility for my life, I recognise that everything that I have now or don't have now is as a result of the actions I have either taken or not taken. Simple. If I like what I've got, keep doing more of it. If I don't like what I've got, look at the decisions I'm taking or not taking and then change them accordingly. Easy. I recognised that I was not focused on my own personal wealth creation and success. I was having a great time as a university lecturer, but I had no pension, I had no savings, I lived in rented accommodation, I have no property for myself, and that needed to change. And that's when property popped back up on the agenda. I can say now with hindsight that it had always been there in my past, but now it actually came to the forefront. So I started training and looking to invest in property for myself during 2008. I went on my first training course over the Valentine's Day and then again in June, and I completed on my first property that I had sourced for myself in August 2008, and that was a complete nightmare, and I might tell you the story of Valley Road later. I then proceeded to invest in property at a very consistent rate during 2009 after a hellish 3 months again. Lots of lessons to learn, lots of challenges to overcome. And during 2009 I was buying on average 1 to 2 properties a month for myself and clients. And by autumn 2010 I'd managed to create a family portfolio worth more than £2 million, giving us an annual turnover of nearly £100,000 a year. I was financially free. And so then what I turned my attention to is creating a business out of this, and I started writing books, my feelings towards training and education and wanting to share what I know and understand came back. And so I created a training business, and I also created a sourcing business. I wrote 3 books, and sort of the rest is history, if you like. One thing I want to pick up on is, what does that story sound to you like? Is that a forward-looking story? Is that a positive story? Have I said all the negative things that have gone on in my life? Have I brought those back up again? The answer is no, because that's not how I want to see myself now. Sometimes when you go to events and you listen to people speak, or maybe you're working with a mentor or a coach, what they want to do is explain to you the distance that they have travelled. They were in this dreadful situation. It might be debt, it might be that they were involved in drugs, they might have been a single parent, bad relationships, whatever else. And now they're in this position where they're financially free, successful, whatever, and they want to show you the distance that they've travelled to let you know, A, that they've got that experience, and B, maybe to say to you that you can do this too. But if you're not damaged in drugs, having bad relationships, or any of those things, then you might not resonate with this. What I'd like to say to you is that you don't have to be a mess in order to be successful. You don't have to have been bankrupt in order to be rich. You don't have to have had a bad relationship in order to have a good relationship. I don't think that those things are inextricably linked. I can do a bad luck story for you if you want. I was a single parent, I've been married to somebody and we were bankrupt, I've lived in social housing, I've been abused, I was a bullied child. We can do all of that if you want. But I'd much rather tell you that I used to be a lady DJ, that I love scuba diving, and that I'm now a successful property investor. And why do I want to say it that way round? Because I don't want to constantly keep bringing those labels back into my life now. I don't want to drag around that baggage with me. I want to think and focus on the positive things in my life now, and that might be something that you want to look at as well. We recently watched the remake of Total Recall, and in there the Arnie Schwarzenegger character, now played by, oh, his name's completely escaped me, the bloke from Bruges, Colin Farrell, there you go. So that the character now played by Colin Farrell, called Hauser, goes to the rebel leader towards the end of the story, and there's this machine that they've used on him that's changed his memories and replaced them by memories of a life that he hasn't actually had. And he says to the rebel leader, I want you to put me on the machine, I want to be able to remember. And Matthias, the rebel leader, says to him, why do you want to remember? And he said, because if I know who I was, I can know who I can be. And Matthias turns around to him and he says, that's just a trick of the mind. The mind wants you to remember who you were. The heart wants to live in the present and look to the future. And I'd just like to leave that little, I don't know, not quite a quote, but that thought with you. Stop dragging all the negatives into your life. Focus on where you are right now. Take responsibility for it and look at what you can do the same to get the same great results and what you need to do differently to get even better results. And I'll look forward to speaking to you a bit more on the webinar series, or the video series rather, called 7 Secrets to Success. My name's been Vicki Wusche.